A very good evening and welcome to NTV Tonight. Thank you all for joining us. I am Sandra Kahomuza and Maureen Nambalirwa on the sign language. We're also coming to you live from our NTV studios here at the Serena Conference Center. Here is a quick look at the top stories that we'll be looking at this Thursday.
Brought to you by DFCU, going further together.
Tonight,
the government of America decided to pull out all the aids which they were giving us. So we are in problems trying to ask for new donors.
Government seeks more support from donors as it encourages refugees who are able to safely return home to consider doing so.
It is the refugees to go back to their home.
In order for a fixing of the money on the bank account and instruct that it be accruing interest.
Uganda Electricity Distribution Company Limited tells government that low level of investment could be one of the reasons behind the frequent power disruptions being experienced by consumers. Also on NTV Tonight.
From 146 and you give a contract of 122. What informed you?
Grant me permission to give you a written answer to that.
Members of Parliament grilled General Katumba Wamala and Alain Kajina over revenue leakages in toll collections and loan repayment. And
the government of Uganda has failed to see that is able to finance different activities that are carried out in the capital city.
So we don't have enough money for roads, we don't have enough money for providing water, we don't have enough.
Critics say the problems that have plagued the city will simply resurface in a new capital if the government continues to turn a blind eye to proper urban planning.
You can't compare a capital city to a city.
Welcome back. Glad to know you're watching NTV Tonight. We do get started and hear that Uganda is currently operating at a financial loss in hosting refugees, according to Minister for Disaster Preparedness and Refugees Sam Engola, following funding cuts and the withdrawal of support from some major donors. The minister says that the government is now seeking support from other donors while encouraging refugees who are able to safely return home to consider doing so.
Uganda is facing increasing pressure to sustain its refugee response following funding cuts from major humanitarian donors. The country hosts more than 2 million refugees and asylum seekers, making Uganda one of Africa's largest refugee hosting countries. Women and children make up about 70% of the refugee population. While the number of refugees continues to grow, Minister for Disaster Preparedness and Refugees Sam Engola says funding to support them is declining.
Because of the government of America decided to pull out all the aids which they were giving us, so we are in problems trying to ask for new donors to help the refugees because the Uganda government has already given them land and peaceful place to stay. So when you see that there is no more funding, many of the NGOs have withdrawn because they are getting the funding mainly from the American government.
The funding shortfall is already affecting humanitarian operations, with several NGOs scaling down or withdrawing from refugee programs after losing their major sources of funding.
Funding is not there. There's no money. We're operating at a loss because there's no gain. We're just helping. These are refugees whom is not a business. It's just loss.
With humanitarian funding shrinking, the question now is how Uganda plans to sustain its refugee response while continuing to receive new arrivals.
We can't plan because it is if people to donate. If somebody is not donating, you can't force. It is just a willingness.
So what's the way forward now?
Way forward is the refugees to go back to their home. Simple. Like the Burundians, 17,000 have gone back on their own. The new one who are coming because the refugee is somebody who has run away from his country because of war, and you can't force somebody to die. So that's why Uganda is very hospitality, welcoming them and receiving them.
While some refugees have already voluntarily returned home, others have returned to Uganda.
The Burundian refugees 17,000 decided to go back on their own. But last 2 months, again, 980 from Tanzania came back. We don't know what is happening or why. We cannot question because they're refugees. So we don't know whether they came from Tanzania or instead of going back to their country, they decided to come here. But as refugees, we cannot question them.
Amidst these challenges, we asked Minister Ngola whether they are open to refugees. The minister had this to say.
Yeah, it's still open. We had suspended the registration because of Ebola crisis, but now Ebola has been declared free. Some of them are coming after the checking of the Ministry of Health that they don't have Ebola. Mainly the Sudanese who have come in, we are recovering, we are receiving them, and the registration is continuing.
Seeing that Uganda is hosting over 2 million refugees and managing it well, I think Uganda have the best practice in Africa.
The minister made the remarks on the sidelines of a regional workshop bringing together government officials from Uganda, Kenya, Ethiopia, Burundi, Sudan, South Sudan and Somalia, as well as representatives from the Embassy of Japan.
Since 2009, JICA has been working with the government of Uganda for supporting the post-conflict recovery and also IDP detained and resettlement, especially in the actually sub-regions.
At a time when resources are increasingly constrained, effectiveness and efficiency are more important than ever. Learning from one another's experience can help us make the best use of available resources and strengthen our collective response to displacement challenges.
The delegates are also expected to visit some refugee settlements in Uganda to assess the response on the ground and share experiences on what is working and where improvements are needed. Norbert Atkunda, NTV News.
Thank you, Norbert, for that story, and it will guide our conversation tonight. We ask you to share with us your thoughts on the government's proposal that refugees should consider returning to their home countries. Once again, we do ask you that you share with us your thoughts on government's proposal that refugees should consider returning to their home countries. Do send in your comments on our social media platforms, Facebook and also on X, and we'll be right back to sample some of your comments. We're now moving on. The Uganda Electricity Distribution Company Limited, UEDCL, has invested $1.5 million in its assets over the past year, which form the backbone of electricity distribution. This investment is significantly lower than that of Umeme, the company from which the UEDCL inherited the distribution network, which invested approximately $100 million every 5 years. Now, the low level of investment could be one of the reasons behind the frequent power disruptions being experienced by consumers. These and other concerns were raised during UEDCL's interaction with the Environment and Natural Resources Committee of Parliament.
The Uganda Electricity Distribution Company, UEDCL officials today appeared before the Parliamentary Committee on Environment and Natural Resources to explain the current situation at the company, including power outages, the assets inherited from Umeme, and its investment plans. The committee members first asked UEDCL management why the company did not invest in its operations when it knew it would replace Umeme earlier.
That instead of investing the money into UEDCL infrastructure and prepare for receivership, what informed your ministry to instead order for a fixing of the money on the bank account and instruct that it be accruing interest?
They're doing strategically preparing ours to take over. The other one was sort of forcefully told to say, this time you must go. We are not extending. And on the specific day, it had to happen. So there wasn't much time to prepare. But I must thank the parliamentarians of the 11th Parliament. You actually listened critically the challenges that we had.
UEDCL says it is losing billions of shillings due to the vandalism of electricity equipment, poles and other items. The company also says many people who applied for electricity connections are yet to receive power due to a shortage of meters.
Failure to have we had an estimate of how many are in the field still working, but are due for replacement, and how much have we assessed how much risk they subject us to in terms of monetary loss.
About 17.9 of the electricity UDCL buys is not paid for by the customers. Our target is 13.65, and this is what the regulator allows for. Roughly 70% of that, of the power that is lost through wires and that you see running and the transformers themselves.
However, the company says it is implementing several initiatives to address the challenges. A number of meters are also set to be procured, while UEDCL has appealed to local council leaders to help in the fight against vandalism.
Once a medium voltage, a low voltage is put into your community, they must own it, because many times they actually know the people who are doing vandalism. Let's create awareness and let's get involved. LOC1s must take responsibility.
Currently, supply has picked up. We are using the different suppliers under BUBU, but to bridge the gap, we have also opened up to international bidding. And the company now has over 1,125,000 meters under contract, with deliveries running from now to mid-2027.
On several occasions, many Ugandans have experienced power outages, prompting MPs to demand an explanation for the situation.
They not score very well. They need consumers countrywide. I don't even think they will get 50%. But my duty is to
how much would you score them? You are the consumer.
Me, they will do a retake.
Out there encouraging our people to add value, because that is our policy now as government, to add value on their production. And that 80% relies on power, if not more. But again, we don't have the power. We are not connecting them.
Is power availability. That is the current problem. There is noise all over the country. Now, I understand we need to do new connections, but shouldn't we be focusing on stabilizing power now?
Some of the network is stressed and some is operating beyond capacity. As we speak, 40% of our substations and switching equipment is more than 25 years old. Over the past 4 years, demand has also grown about 60% on the same network. 12 substations are running above their safe loading levels. The details are in the appendix.
6 senior officials at UEDCL are holding positions in acting capacities, including the managing director, Jocelyn Rabogo. MPs say the issue should also be addressed by the mother ministry. The MPs argue that the improvements in the operations of UEDCL would ensure that the country gets a reliable power supply, which is a key factor of production and development. Juma Kiria, NTV.
Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Juma, for capturing that story. Now, it has turned out that the contract of the French firm Aegis Operation Limited, which was contracted to manage the Kampala-NTV Expressway, was supposed to have been terminated midway. The firm purported to have exited the project 2 months before the contract could lapse. In May 2026, is accused of gross failure in implementing the terms of the contract, leading to revenue linkages in toll collections, threatening the timely repayment of the loan. The former Minister for Works and Transport, General Katumba Wamala, who has since been appointed the Minister for Public Service, told a committee of Parliament that the contract was not terminated because of diplomacy.
You seem to be an accomplice.
The former Minister of Works and Transport, General Katumba Wamala, and the former Executive Director of the defunct Uganda National Roads Authority, Aline Kajina, appeared before the Physical Infrastructure Committee of Parliament. They were here to furnish the committee with the information on the inquiry into the running of the Kampala-Entebbe Expressway. It follows the concerns that the government could fail to repay within the set timelines the $350 million loan, approximately 1.3 trillion shillings at today's exchange rate, that the government borrowed to build the 51-kilometer dual carriageway. The majority of the queries revolved around why the contract to operate and maintain the expressway had been awarded to a foreign firm, Aegis Operations Limited, at exorbitant fees. The firm was allocated a lump sum of 122 billion shillings over a contract period spanning 5 years, despite the data available to Uganda National Roads Authority at the time showing that about 146 billion shillings would be collected annually from the payment of the road tolls.
The question is, from 146 and you give a contract of 122, what informed you?
Grant me permission to give you a written answer to that.
MPs argue that the contract left the government with so little to earn from the project.
So when you look at the difference, it's very minute for the government.
They questioned why government entities were never considered to collect the tolls. Kajina defended that there were hardly any local capabilities at the time to manage the nascent toll road project in Uganda.
Why wasn't URA considered? Perhaps it could have been, but we would have to really change the operations of URA because it was not just a collection. When you go on the project and you have seen the contract of Aegis was not just tolling. Remember, they had to do the lighting. I didn't think we were going to get a revenue collector now to go and start do lighting.
Aegis is reported to have recorded losses throughout the 5-year period that lapsed in May 2026, part of the reason stated to have led to its questionable exit. However, the committee pointed out that the declared losses could have been a deliberate move targeted at undercutting the government.
Realize it. Because we have looked at the growth trends of traffic on that road, and surprisingly, they started growing from 2022 at a very high rate, and now they have started dropping. I don't know if cars have stopped using that road based on the amount of money you are banking.
Clearly, there is deliberate under-declaration of revenue. And there is deliberate system blockade to deny the country to know what is the actual.
It was observed to Kajina's confirmation that Aegis had failed to implement the contract to the latter by, for instance, failing to install traffic monitoring equipment to provide accurate information on the volumes alongside the collected revenue.
We had several problems with the company. I don't know if they have been said before. We began to notice that there was slippage, that the independent traffic monitoring system, the ITMS, which was supposed to come in, I think 6 months, was not coming on board. The way in motion was not coming on board. There was a challenge with the data that they were giving us when we were doing reconciliation, and we were seeing gaps in the reconciliation.
This attracted a plethora of questions on why the contract with Aegis was not terminated. The committee was told that the attempts to terminate were there.
We had a challenge because this company, other than being just a company, it was a French company, and then there was protocols and diplomatic issues also to be considered. I don't know how many times we met with the ambassador on this matter.
I think it was the best interest to terminate the contract. It would have been perhaps more expensive and more disruptive to terminate it. What was agreed on was to take out of the contract the options or the part of the works that the contractor had failed to perform.
It is indicated that the operational losses Aegis could have incurred had led it to exit the project 2 months before the 5-year contract lapsed in May 2026. But the MPs hold that Aegis may not have exited the project. They premise their view on the observation that Aegis had recommended Pinnacle Security Limited, which it has subcontracted from the inception of the project, to take over the job.
Because you are the general manager during Aegis.
Yes.
And you are the general manager at Pinnacle.
No, I've been road manager. It's a title, sir, at Pinnacle Securities. The contract asks for a road manager.
So the road manager is the general manager?
Pretty much so, yes, sir.
So you are the general manager, road manager, at Aegis and at Pinnacle?
I was general manager, road manager at Aegis.
So at Pinnacle they dropped the general manager title? But you still do both functions.
I still lead the...
The lawmakers wondered how the authorities could have cleared Pinnacle given the recommendation, yet its competency is in the field of security.
Can you tell this committee, where did Pinnacle, a domestic firm, get experience from? Because when you go to their website, they have nothing to do with the road toll. They have only two things they offer. One, they provide security.
On the road, the EGI subcontracted Pinnacle.
When?
In 2021.
To collect the money?
Yeah.
To collect the money?
Provide the toll collector individuals to collect that cash.
So you recruited?
Yes, Pinnacle did the recruitment.
They also questioned why there was never competitive bidding for the job. Officials from the Ministry of Works pointed out that Pinnacle, which Aegis subcontracted right from the inception of the project, had been envisaged as a local company that would assume the responsibility, having built capacity and competency. Nevertheless, they pointed out that the award of the contract was never an outright ticket.
There was no automatic decision to say, once you've done 5 years, you take over. You'd have to be assessed. Now, whether they have been assessed and they were cleared, that I don't know, because that was beyond my tenure.
They stated that late initiation of the procurement processes had left them with no option but to extend the contract, which yet again was allocated 36 billion shillings for a one-year contract. Jackson Onyango, NTV, at Parliament.
That story would take us in for a fast short break, but we do remind you of a poll question. We did ask that you share with us your thoughts on the government's proposal that refugees should consider returning to their home countries. Please do send in your thoughts. We're still waiting to hear from you. We'll take a short break now, but here is still to come. Still to come on NTV Tonight. Uganda Law Society releases State of the Rule of Law report, decries what they have termed as a shrinking space for freedom of speech across the country that should be addressed immediately. And
we are ready to reach to any level.
Uganda volleyball lady cranes have stepped up preparations for the nation's championship due in Nairobi, with the team now entering its 4th week of training ahead of the continental tournament.
Hello, Mr. Mkasa.
Hello, how are you?
I'm okay, sir. Are you the broker?
The original one.
I was told you have very good rentals.
That is right. How many bedrooms do you want?
I want 3 bedrooms.
Okay, did I tell you of the price?
Yes, of course. 500,000.
No. This side, the salary went a bit high.
Why?
Because the paint we use is of good quality. So the place gained the value.
Which paint?
Global paint.
How?
For the ceiling, for us we use Global Mat. And for the inside walls, we use Global Silk Vinyl.
Okay, tell me about the outside walls.
Outside we use Global Weather Coat Emulsion so that the walls don't peel.
I'm really impressed. The precision you put while painting, I'm willing to pay any amount.
That is true, because here for us quality is paramount and the place becomes umite.
Global Paint, a reliable product.
Welcome to our new office. This is where the parking is, and then the warehouse front door here, the reception here, the lorry's entrance there, and their exit there. This is it.
So where is the building?
Fast, stress-free construction. Get your factory-made buildings in 12 weeks with SAFBuild. Order yours now. SAFBuild, a quality building solution from Uganda Bati.
Today is a good day to draw up a new beginning. So start something. Make your move and get in your groove. Do it for the gram. Turn on your lights. Tusker Lights.
Welcome back. Glad to know you're still watching NTV tonight. Still with me, Sandra Kahumza. Now, a debate has erupted over the government's proposal to relocate the country's capital, with supporters arguing that the move could help ease congestion in Kampala. Critics, however, say the problems that have plagued the city will simply resurface in a new capital if the government continues to turn a blind eye to proper urban planning. The proposal was introduced in Parliament yesterday by the Deputy Minister for Urban Development.
In the 1890s, British colonial rulers established their administrative base in Kampala. Although the capital was temporarily moved to Entebbe in the early 1900s, Kampala reclaimed its status as the nation's capital when Uganda gained independence in 1962, a title it proudly holds to this day. Putting key offices in the city centre brought people closer together, leading to high congestion in the central business district. To fix this, the government tried starting development programs in other areas to lower Kampala's crowds, but it hasn't worked. Yesterday, State Minister for Urban Development, Margaret Muhanga, spoke to Parliament about a new idea, moving the capital to Nakasongola district. She explained that Kampala is too crowded, heavily traffic jammed, and full of aging buildings to be fixed easily. Instead of trying to rebuild an old city, she believes it is better to start fresh somewhere else, building a well-planned modern city from the ground up. However, urban planner engineer David Luimbazi argues that simply moving the capital won't solve the problem. He says the real issue is public behavior, like building in wetlands or putting up structures without permits.
Kampala is redeemable. And what I'm saying, until the people who are in Kampala destroying Kampala, it's not animals destroying Kampala. It is not, the buildings are not building themselves. The flooding is not creating itself. Everything is self-inflicted by society. The same people who are in Kampala will be the same people who are going to go to the new capital city.
He adds that before making such a massive decision, Uganda must first study other countries that have relocated their capital cities to see what actually works.
Mumbai in India is evolving, is being pulled out of the doldrums. Mumbai. You can imagine the population density in India. That means look at the infrastructure density also.
He warned that if we try to evict the city, we will suffer huge losses because the country's economy is largely dependent on Kampala.
Just to talk of it, we run a deficit budget as a country. So we don't have enough money for roads, we don't have enough money for providing water, we don't have enough money for medical services, for hospital, for schools, name it. Now we have to contend with the issue. We have to now acquire land for the new city. After acquiring land, you have to provide the necessary infrastructure services to make sure the city is functional. That cost needs to be elaborated. What benefits are going to come out of it?
On the other hand, Lubaga Mayor Zaki Mberaze claims the government itself is holding Kampala back. He says a lack of funding for upgrades is keeping the city from reaching higher standards.
The government of Uganda has failed to see that is able to finance different activities that are carried out in the capital city. You can't compare a capital city to a city. So if there's a budget of 2 trillion needed for Kampala, the government should have been able to fund that. We have a Kampala strategic plan. It is not even funded by even 30%. It's not funded.
He adds that structural issues within the leadership are making things worse, arguing that certain key decision-making powers should be given directly to the district level to foster city development.
We find it is a little bit hectic for the people within different divisions to be looking at one office at the cases authority.
We went to the streets and here is what the people said.
Nanze mulamu ogwo sigusimya government gwe baderese bakitulekere ekibuga kibeeremu omugoteko gwogwo twagumanyira tetulina kyakikolera oba enkuba etonnye oba jamu akoze atya twakimanyira Kibuga kino nteekateeka yaakyo yafa lubereberye kutandika ku baakola pulaani y'ekibuga nga bwe kyalina okukolebwa. Ekibuga kino we kiri kaakano twetaaga okufuna ekibuga ekiri ku mutindo gw'ensi yonna naye kirina kupulaaningibwa kuzimbibwa bbali awagazi. Kubaka tutakyasobola gavumenti yaffe tesobola kumenya teddemu ekole pulaani y'ekyo naddala ng'amakubo mafunda gali wakati w'ebizimbe.
Emigottoko gisusse. So singa waba kyaladdeko awalala industry obundi zimu ne zivaamu olwawaawo bitongole ebimu ne bivaamu katugeza farmhouse ey'abalimi ki ekigibeeza e Kampala. Palamenti ki ekigibeeza wakati mu wano wati. Waliwo ebimu ebyetaagisa wakisi nebeera wakati mu Kampala. Ebimu bwe bikyukamu ne bijja eri nkikakasa nti embeera ejja kuba ntuufu.
For now, the discussion continues. People are still divided on the best solution. The government now has to decide if moving the capital is really the right choice for Uganda's future. Beata Moema, NTV Tonight.
Well, now the business of dealing in stolen mobile phones could be getting increasingly risky. An ongoing intensified police intelligence-led operation has exposed a wider criminal market behind this vice. And as Walter Messenger reports, the force will not back down until normalcy is achieved.
Over the last 2 months, the police have conducted a serious operation targeting stolen mobile devices. Within that period, more than 1,200 devices have been recovered. According to the force, the operation is intended to be sustained and to make it increasingly risky for one to possess, sell, or even hold a stolen mobile device.
Phone theft and snatching have remained a major concern for residents in Kampala and its metropolitan area. But police say an intelligence-led operation is cracking the vice. A recent incident involves the murder of renowned football star David Owori, whose stolen mobile device has now led to the arrest of 17 people, including key suspects.
We recovered over 700 phones around the Kupa complex. That operation was by the Kempi South, that is CPS Kampala. Also police at Katwe. In the month of July, recovered over 120 iPhones. We also had still a CPS Kampala, recovered over 100 phones, iPhones, bringing the number to over 1,200 suspected stolen phones.
But if you have lost a phone before and reported to the police, you might understand how tedious the recovery process is. Many have had to abandon the process to the joy of the thieves. However, in the last 2 months, the police have been using a screening technology that helps them to identify and trace the owners of the recovered devices.
Getting serial numbers, yes, identifying the contacts that were in that phone, and we are trying to call the owners to come and pick them. Yeah, basically we are trying to retrieve the serial numbers, and that is how we are trying to get some of them. However, we are still stuck with so many phones. The owners, even after communicating to them, most of them are not, some of them are not coming for their phones. If they come, it is also an advantage to us because it helps our investigations.
But investigators are increasingly focusing on the market that keeps phone theft profitable.
Findings indicate that when these phones are snatched, there is ready market by dealers in downtown mostly that buy these that buy stolen phones. After buying the phones, these phones, they change the serial numbers, then sell these phones outside the country. Yes, such that even if you try to look for your phone, you look for it in vain, you never find it.
Police say an operation in Katwe led to the arrest of a phone dealer and 3 other suspects.
When we searched his vehicle, we recovered over 120 phones. When we searched his shop, we also recovered some phones, and we also recovered a machine that is allegedly used to change serial numbers.
And in case you are the one that prefers low budget, high-end or unverified devices, a stolen phone can have serious consequences even when you might not have stolen it.
Try to verify before buying that phone. Yes, because if we find you with a phone that was stolen from somewhere and there is a case that was opened up, of course we shall charge you.
The Uganda Police Force Annual Crime Report of 2025 indicates that mobile phone theft fell by 21.1% in 2025, yet police are now recovering more than 1,200 suspected stolen phones in fresh intelligence-led operations around Kampala. A total of 5,783 mobile phone theft cases were reported to police in 2025. This was down from 7,330 cases in 2024. For police, the objective is no longer just to catch phone snatchers, but to disrupt the market that gives stolen phones value in the first place. Walter Mwesije, NTV.
Also tonight, the Uganda Law Society has today launched another State of the Rule of Law report, which calls to the public servants and public institutions to respect constructive criticism and scrutiny. Well, after reviewing checks and balances in the functionality of the executive, legislature and judiciary for the last 6 months, the Law Society officials say they have noticed a shrinking space for freedom of speech across the country that should be addressed, among other concerns.
Among wins cited in the latest State of the Rule of Law report by the Uganda Law Society is the nullification of the controversial Computer Misuse Act, which had seen several people detained, and the apprehension of corrupt officials at Parliament.
The aspect of rendering this law a nullity is a foot in the right direction. We saw the court directing that all the people being tried under that law should be released, the Malema Viris and group, and that is really a positive. We also saw the efforts by the IGG, where several people, especially in public offices like officials in Parliament, who are being arraigned before court, investigated for corruption and abuse of office, and also misuse of public funds, which is also an aspect of transparency.
The Law Society has as such challenged public servants and institutions to respect constructive criticism, including opinions expressed through digital platforms by social media users. Speaking on the sidelines of the launch of the quarterly State of Rule of Law report, Uganda Law Society Vice President Anthony Asimwe said criminal or regulatory sanctions should not be imposed merely because expression is critical of public officials or government institutions.
We witnessed a period marred with a lot of violations, a lot of abuses, where we saw electoral violence, people being beaten, being tortured, journalists being beaten, their equipments being, deliberately taken off from them, being, captured, destroyed. And it was really a concern because it's a democratic society where we believe this was not respected. So we believe this sends a chilling effect in the area of, freedom of press, freedom of expression.
The NRM Director for Information and Publicity, Emmanuel Dombo, condemns continued abuse of freedom of speech and calls for dialogue among politicians.
I think one of the biggest challenges we have in Uganda is people had extended the freedoms too far. They mistake freedom of speech for freedom of abusing everybody, including those in leadership. They mistake freedom of association for associating with anybody, even those who are hostile to government. Perhaps in some situations the government may also be in excess, but this can only be resolved when the politicians in Uganda choose behind the cameras to go and talk about the politics of the country with respect to one another.
He has also defended the NRM government's move to involve the army in most national operations.
The NRM government is a product of a protracted military struggle by the civilians. It wasn't UPDF. It wasn't even, it was just civilians who came to overthrow and change the political status quo in Uganda. So when you look at that historical perspective, even when we enacted the new constitution and they still maintained the UPDF, they remained with that historical connection with the national resistance movement.
This year, Uganda Law Society marks its 70th anniversary since its establishment in 1956. Juliet Nalwoga, NTV.
Is there a lot to smile about?
Short break now, but Malcolm Sime will be here with business news.
You need a bigger space to grow your business. You need more equipment to meet demand.
You need to make sure everyone gets paid on time.
In business, you need advice, solutions, and sector expertise when it matters.
Your new office space looks great. What's next?
We get it. Absa Business Banking.
Greatness isn't given, it's earned. It's the result of your mindset. Relentless, focused. So when greatness is within reach, you're ready. Rule your kingdom.
MTN voice bundle. Ay. Load. Hey. Hello, Mama. Hey, it is me, your son, Opio. Hey, now, Mama, listen to me. MTN has the offer. Yes, it has the offer. You load from 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. Now they have free MTN to MTN minutes. And those minutes are there all day. So you load, you'll thank me later. Hey, Mama.
Load an MTN voice bundle between 7 a.m. and 8 a.m. and get 3 free MTN to MTN minutes valid all day. Dial *100 *21# and get your free minutes bully daily. Free your fire with free minutes from MTN. Together, our connection is unstoppable. MTN.
Hello, good evening. Welcome. This is NTV Tonight. We are live streaming online on ntv.co.ug and on air. Plus, don't forget we have a YouTube live stream that you can share with your viewers. So let's start off with the central bank rate today, which was kept at 9.7%. The Bank of Uganda keeping it unchanged, and as the central bank balances rising inflationary pressures against a resilient economic recovery. During a press briefing at the central bank, Governor Michael Ating-Ego said annual headline inflation rose to 4% in July from 3.7% a month earlier, driven largely by higher fuel, energy and food prices. The governor, however, says the inflation outlook has improved, with core inflation projected to remain between 4 and 4.5% over the next 12 months, while economic growth is forecast to accelerate to as much as over 7.5% in 2026-27 financial year.
Of course, there are risks to this outlook, and they broadly remain tilted to the upside, including prolonged inflationary surges, which would promote major central banks to raise interest rates, thereby increasing depreciation pressures on the shilling due to capital flight to safety. Also, we have escalating geopolitical tensions, which could disrupt global supply chains, push up international oil prices, and raise domestic energy and transport costs. In addition, adverse weather conditions could reduce agricultural output and drive up the food prices. Also, a stronger positive output gap, which could generate additional demand-side inflation pressure, is the other risk. The downside risks that could ease inflation include favorable weather conditions that would improve agricultural output and food supply, weaker domestic growth, for instance, if prolonged conflict in the Middle East weighs on the global growth, thereby dampening domestic demand and inflationary pressures. The Ugandan economy has remained resilient amid persistent global headwinds. Economic growth in financial year 2025/2026 is estimated at 6.4%, supported by the strengthening private sector credit that further increased household consumption and investment, as well as government spending.
All right, let's now turn to the Uganda Development Bank, which has grown its assets to 2.26 trillion shillings, while its lending has surpassed 2.2 trillion shillings. The government has also approved a capital increase to 5 trillion shillings. Finance Minister Henry Musasizi said the bigger capital base should translate into cheaper credit, calling for the Development Bank's lending rate to fall to 10% and eventually into single digits. The lender has also reported profit after tax of 63.4 billion for the year ended 31st December 2025. NTV's Ronan Ahawe reports.
Uganda Development Bank says its growth is being driven by the rising demand for financing, particularly from businesses in the productive sectors of the economy. Its loan book has now reached 1.6 trillion shillings.
And it's no wonder that the demand we see also reflects the economic reality of the country, because most of the approvals we do and the disbursements, the new loans we give out, in agriculture, commercial agriculture sectors, manufacturing and industry, and that's about between 65 to 70% of the entire book. So that for me speaks to the economic realities in the country. In terms of NPL or expected credit losses, these are within the risk appetite that we have. We also do make a lot of collections. Basically, we are able to collect what we lend out.
The Finance Ministry has also announced plans to increase the bank's capitalization.
We have authorized the board to retain the profit after tax they made in 2025 as additional capital. And also we have approved the proposal to increase the capital, authorized share capital from now 2 trillion to 5 trillion, meaning that we have approved an additional authorized capital of 3 trillion shillings.
But concerns remain over the persistent high lending interest rates.
In the future, this support we are giving to the bank, we should see them giving loans. We should see our people borrowing from UDB at less than 10%. For now they are 12, we are saying okay. We would wish to see them come to 10% and then eventually the single digit interest rate.
The bank rates have been coming down from the past few years and currently at 12. So as the minister has indicated, when the bank's capital grows, the bank will start looking at the possibility of lowering the interest rates.
Rona Nahabwe, NTV Business.
Thank you, Rona. As AFA International marks 44 years in Uganda, the organization says farmers, women, youth-led enterprises are still facing major barriers for affordable finance and quality inputs and reliable markets. Now, State Minister for Agriculture, Bright Ramirama, says with about 70% of Ugandans dependent on agriculture, the country must raise productivity, improve quality, and embrace science-driven farming.
Within that program, we'll really be focusing on doing especially 4 pillars. One is to organize the farmers into viable produce organizations. Number 2 is to focus on enabling them increase production and productivity. And there are so many things that we do under production and productivity. connecting them to advisory services, ensure that they have access to information and knowledge, ensuring that they can have access to quality inputs to enable them to produce better, many things. And then number 3 will be ensuring that we can connect them to markets, both the input markets and output markets.
The only way you can capture international market is you must have good quality products, you must have the numbers, sustainable supply, and you must have a policy that supports the system. So we have the policy, we have we have the science, but what has been lacking is capital to increase on our production.
Okay, into Forex and equity market wrap now, because the Uganda shilling dollar exchange rate was up 3,712. That's the average on August 13th, up 0.09%, and that's from the previous session. Meanwhile, financial market analysts say the local unit has weakened today against the US dollar, and it's extending its decline over both the past month and the past year. On the other hand, in the equities market, the all-share index edging lower, while the local companies index gaining. Trading was concentrated in blue-chip counters like MTN, Stanbic, and Airtel. Airtel Uganda declined, while MTN Uganda was unchanged. All right, into the global markets now, where oil prices fell as investors assess prospects for weaker global demand this year, and higher U.S. crude stocks though prices found support from a lack of progress in talks over the blockade in the Strait of Hormuz and disruptions to supply, while gold paired losses after falling nearly 1% earlier in the session. That's the metals market. That's business, and that's NTV Tonight. Thanks to our partners, the Central Bank, the Securities Exchange, and others. We are streaming on YouTube, on X, and other social media platforms. Keep the conversations coming. This is NTV Tonight. Sandra is coming up with the very latest from the world of sports.
There, and their exit there. This is it.
So where is the building?
Fast, stress-free construction. Get your factory-made buildings in 12 weeks with SafBuild. Order yours now. SafBuild, a quality building solution from Uganda Bati.
Refresher.
Welcome now to sports. We do start with City Oilers Basketball Club. They will be looking to taking a commanding 3-1 lead in the National Basketball League finals, the playoffs, when they take on Namuongo Blazers tomorrow at Lugogo Indoor Stadium. The 10-time champions lead the Namuongo Blazers 2-1, heading into Game 4 with head coach Andrew Tendo crediting tactical adjustments for their turnaround after losing the opening game.
The City Oilers have responded strongly after dropping Game 1 of the National Basketball League finals. The record champions now lead the Namuongo Blazers 2-1, having taken the last 2 games of the series. Head coach Andrew Tendo says tactical adjustments made after that opening loss have been key to turning the series around.
We started playing better in second and third and also the fourth, but the deficit that we had put ourselves under was a bit too deep, so we couldn't pull it through. We made a couple of adjustments regarding what had gone wrong in Game 1, and I think that's what has helped us in these last 2 games.
One of the biggest differences has been the impact of mid-season signing Patrick Rembert. The American guard has quickly established himself as a vital piece for the Oilers, averaging 17 points per game since joining the team. Tendo is thrilled with what Rembert brings to the squad.
Patrick is a true definition of a professional player in terms of his approach, leadership, and how he's managed to hold the team together. And I'm very grateful that we actually made that signing because he brought something extra to the club.
However, with the Blazers proving they can beat the Oilers having taken last season's title, Tendo expects another strong push in Game 4.
We shouldn't forget that they are the reigning champions and they have some championship pedigree in their lineup. My anticipation is they will make adjustments and obviously come and play a competitive game because they would want to get one back to try and even the series. So I anticipate a tough game.
Namuongo will be desperate to level the series while the Oilers aim to move within a single win of reclaiming the NBL crown. With both teams now thoroughly familiar with each other, further adjustments on Friday night could prove decisive.
Well, now, the Uganda Volleyball Lady Cranes have stepped up preparations for the CFVB Nations Championship due in Nairobi, Kenya, with the team now entering its 4th week of training ahead of the Continental Tournament event. Now, Uganda qualified for the championship after winning the Zone V qualifiers in Kampala last June, but the team knows the challenge ahead on the Continental stage will be much tougher.
Yeah, thank you. Of course, the tournament is African nations, so where all good teams come, the best players, those who are playing from different regions, different states, come together and represent their countries. And I know the magnitude of this competition is good, is high, so it will not be a walkover, a path through. It's going to be get committed, put your energy there, fight for every ball, fight for every set, and results will come based on what you show on that volleyball court.
I feel we are ready because we started our training a bit earlier than all these other championships that we have been going to. So I feel like we are ready to reach to any level in the championship.
Well, now, the Uganda Athletics Federation is racing against time to rebuild its golden era on the track following the retirement of most of its national stars. This after a disappointing performance at the just concluded Commonwealth Games in Scotland.
He has been desperate to upgrade
Uganda Athletics Federation President Dominic Otuchet blames the poor performance at the 2026 Commonwealth Games in Scotland on inadequate preparation and the poor treatment of athletes before the Games. From Scotland, athletics brought home a medal courtesy of Peruth Chemtai's 3rd place finish in the 3,000-meter steeplechase. The performance indicated a sharp decline from the 2022 Birmingham Games, where Jacob Kiplimo scooped double gold in the 5,000 and 10,000 meters, while Victor Kiplangat claimed marathon gold.
I think the travel given to the team exhausted the team. They went by air up to Heathrow, and from Heathrow, the team had to travel by road, by bus, and it took more than 10 hours from London to Glasgow. It was a torturous journey for the team. It was too cold. I was in Glasgow myself, and I always thrive in cold weather, but the type of cold there was too much. It was very difficult to bear.
Otuchet admits the national team is in a critical transition phase as seasoned runners are transiting from track to road racing.
And we don't blame them. They did their best. Like now, Joshua Cheptegei, he won everything. You know, he did it for the country. Jacob Kiplimo also did it for the country, you know. So if it's time for them to make the money now, why not?
To revive Uganda's track glory, the Federation is shifting its strategy heavily towards youth development.
We look forward to younger people coming in to replace them. And this is why we are talking about training camps.
The plan relies on partnership with schools to establish regional training camps across the country.
We are going to partner also with particularly our members at the grassroots, schools. There are schools that have supported us before.
The strategy has already shown progress as some athletes who competed at the recent Under-20 World Championships were discovered through these very camps. Regina Naluja, NTV Sport.
Finally, in sports tonight, athletes failing to return with the official delegation after an international event is a scourge that continues to plague Uganda. The recently concluded Commonwealth Games in Scotland was not any different. 4 of the 6 boxers failed to return with the team, opting to disappear from the camp without informing any officials. Now, we talked to the Uganda Olympic Committee and the Uganda Boxing Federation about these recurring incidents and how they can be mitigated.
Uganda is once again left grappling with the issue of missing competitors after an international sporting event. Boxers Nuhu Bate, Emily Nakalema, Ibrahim Kemis, and Angel Katushabe did not return with the team from the 2026 Commonwealth Games in Glasgow. However, their visas are still valid, meaning declaring them missing right now would be jumping the gun.
Unfortunate that some of our boxers are still missing. You cannot say they vanished because you see once their visas are still on, because they had a 3 months visa. So it means they can go in, come out, multiple entry. So because they didn't return with the team, you can't just say they got vanished because they might come back tomorrow.
Donald Rukare, the president of the Uganda Olympic Committee, says it's now impossible to determine which athlete has the potential to disappear, given the background work done here before the team sets off.
We do a number of things. We have our own risk assessment before we go for any major game. Within that, we are able to do a number of things. One, all members of the delegation sign a code of conduct. 2, we vet them here. 3, we have sessions with them to talk to them and say, please, because we always know that when you have these kind of games, there's a potential that some people might can't have happened in the past.
Various reasons have been given as to why these athletes keep vanishing from camp, ranging from peer influence to the search for greener pastures.
I mean, there are a variety of reasons. I can only guess. Maybe it's just some people get, we think a lot of them think it's greener pastures on the other side. Others, I think, are boomed. What you see, once they go to these games, many people come around.
They want to get into professional boxing that makes money to them. So let's also bring those things back home here. If we can improve the situation of boxing in Uganda, provide training centers, make it very commercial, be supportive to that extent, so that not everyone would see any reason to want to stay in a foreign country. Okay.
The act of athletes vanishing is not without consequences.
For example, is would not be able to participate again in any international event because of that particular issue that we had.
The Uganda Boxing Federation says the disappearance of competitors currently has no bearing on squad growth and development.
Have boxers in place. What we need is to address the underlying factors, the factors of better training, better friendly games, good technical skills, preparedness, take boxing back to the schools.
Boxing President Moses Mohanji says one of the programs that can be implemented to dissuade athletes from the habit is regular exposure to international events. However, it should be noted that most of the competitors and the delegation returned, with the exception of the 4 boxers. With their visas still valid until October, it remains to be seen whether they will return in time to avoid violating their stay. Felix Manyindo, NTV Sport.
Well, let us now dive into your responses to our poll question. We did ask you earlier to share with us your thoughts on the government's proposal that refugees should consider returning to their home countries. Now, diving into your thoughts, I want to start with Peter, that says here on X that if the conditions in their countries fairly favors them, then it would be right. I feel our country's natural resources are overwhelmed by their numbers. Masiko here says, still on X, that it is extremely sad that we have resorted to the xenophobic and Afrophobic rhetoric of the South African extremists. No refugee wants to be a refugee. If we are committed to Pan-Africanism, then we would fight to resolve the continental armed conflicts. Cassie here says that it is long overdue. Mixed reactions over here. Don Cruz says that I support voluntary, safe and dignified return. If conditions back home have improved, the government should support those who choose to go back. But we must also protect those who still face danger and ensure host communities are supported too. Your thoughts right here. You're from Kamwenje District. Thank you for sending in your comment. We have Obed here that says that they should help us and start with those ones around Gaba Road starting tomorrow. There you have it. I think that's pretty much what we have so far. But of course, the conversation will be staying online. So please do go to Facebook, to X, and send in your comments. Once again, we do ask you to share with us your thoughts on the government's proposal that refugees should consider returning to their home countries. Well, our poll response actually brings us to the very end of NTV Tonight this week. Thank you all for joining us. And if you missed any of the stories, please do go to Facebook, X, and of course YouTube, and you'll be able to watch some of the stories that aired here this week. We hope to see you soon. Good night.